that we have planned regarding the topic of economic feasibility of technologies for high tunnel production. So we're very excited to put the webinar. You may be the only one if others are sleeping because of the turkey. So that means you got all the time. Well, any questions that you have, we're here for you. But also it's going to help the recording because, sometimes people don't like asking questions, but then you see others and they're like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to know. So we're going to still be here. Do you mind telling us about what do you do or how are you related to agriculture?
Sure. First, I'll apologize for background noise. I'm in the main part of my house and I have a lot of children. So I can put on my headphones if I need to. If it's okay, then we'll just go with it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I got a link. I missed the first one. I got a link from our local Purdue Extension agent, Emily Evers, here in St. Joseph County, Indiana, because I grow mostly salad greens. Not everything is high tunnel production. I actually utilize I've got 2 caterpillar tunnels I utilize just in the winter for salad greens because here, even though it's northern Indiana, I think it gets too hot for the greens and the caterpillars in the winter. I could probably use ventilation, irrigation, but I actually choose to put peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers in my tunnels in the summer and grow the salad greens there in the winter. But since you're focusing mostly on leafy greens, that's mostly what I grow year round. So even now, when it's 28 degrees outside, I still have greens in the field. But I'm a small scale farmer. So I actually run an urban farm and I have 38 50-foot rows, which is primarily all salad greens rotated among different varieties. And so on a given market day, I usually sell about 6 different types of salad greens. But right now we use like low hoops and frost blanket. And then we choose varietal selection for like cold hardiness or heat tolerance, depending upon the time of the year. And so we're kind of switching things out with the goal of usually having like 6 or 7 varieties for market every week. And then we're primarily direct to consumer through farmers markets. I've done some wholesale in the past. I just don't like wholesale. I prefer actually the increased revenue of direct to consumer sales. And we do it as like a greens bar is what we call it, but everything is bulk. And then people can make their own mixes. So they just take the tongs and they choose what kinds of the different greens they want. So they could have all spinach or all lettuce, or they could have a mixture of spinach, arugula, lettuce, tatsoi, mizuna, whatever we have available. And then we will do some head lettuces as well, but mostly it's baby cut greens. Hold on a second.
She's gonna move.
Yeah.
Um, I,
So
I think it's pretty. I really like the idea of the salad bulk bar where people can mix and match.
yeah,
Because usually, let's say if I'm gonna buy lettuce, I buy the same and I have to finish the whole container, which is a lot big container. And by halfway, I'm like, I can't eat more salad. So usually goes wrong, goes bad. But I think we can start. What do you guys think?
yeah. I think yeah. We can start.
Who who is going to jump here? Maybe you want to share. I had problems now that I remember.
Okay.
You want to share your screen? Uh,
Yes.
and then I will do the introduction very quick. Who is record? Okay, it's recording. So I wanted to introduce the team. Basically, we have most of the people here who has been working on this. Um, Welcome to the second webinar of the webinar series that is talking about a tool that we have been developed for the past few years, and it's called HortCalculator. It's an extension project that um, has been in the development for a few years. And the idea is right now, this part of the tool actually has been developed for turf grass, melons, sweet corn. But right now we're looking into the leafy greens, economic feasibility. And because this is Jean-Pierre's master thesis, we're focusing on adopting biological control. So the tool is basically, the goal is that users are going to provide their information using like a TurboTax method where people answer questions and you can understand, are biological control investments worth it? What is the impact on your profitability, on your break even? And what happens if you change your market? So let's say you're going to restaurants. If you would change your market, how is your profitability? So if you're familiar with TurboTax, it's basically a similar system where we ask you questions and that information that you provide is going to be plugged into the website to create this analysis. We also give a few recommendations throughout the website. We are working right now on the website development, and Jean-Pierre and Giuliano have been working with farmers throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio to validate the tool. The tool is basically, when we're looking into the tool, and the team that we have been working on wants to understand, if you're going to use natural enemies and cultural practices to manage pests, is it going to make you more profitable or more resilient financially? And we use something like enterprise budgets to provide financial indicators, and we tell you what is the cost, the impact, the profitability, the break even, and the return on investment. There is a big diversity of people in this team, and we also have a group of farmers who are part of an advisory board. An idea is these farmers are checking, is this something that is usable and is useful? And we want to provide these platform and these series of webinars that are building to get to the platform. So we're building blogs of different topics that the last few topics are going to be just focused on that tool. So people can use it. And it's going to be for free, accessible to anyone who wants to use it. So today we're going to talk about using enterprise budgets. And this is very much a topic that Jean-Pierre is an expert. And the idea is, can you use an enterprise budget to track your production and profitability? My name is Ariana Torres. I'm a faculty at Purdue. I'm an agricultural economist, but we also have Dr. Juliano Marquez. And right now we have Jean-Pierre, who is a master's student working on this. Jean-Pierre, all yours.
Thank you so much, Ariana, for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. I would like to start this webinar saying that, as Ariana said, that we previously did a webinar named Record Keeping. And why we start with record keeping is because we need the information in order to get an enterprise budget. So I would say that's a key factor to build a good enterprise budget, having a record keeping. So if you want to check that, we have that in our website, the previous webinar. And today we're going to talk about the use of enterprise budget to tracking leafy green production and understanding profitability. And why leafy green? Well, basically, we have been working with Dr. Torres since 2023. And then we found that leafy greens like spinach, for example, is a very common crop among urban and peri-urban farmers in Indiana. So we start with that. Having said that, we want to share what is the definition of enterprise budget. So we could say basically that it's a detailed financial picture or plan for a specific business unit or enterprise. But in other words, it's a simple tool that helps farmers calculate total costs, like for example, seed, pesticides, biopesticides, or other variable costs. And also it helps to calculate expected projected net profit. So at the end, it's like a photo of your costs, your revenue, your gross revenue, and your project net profit. And what is the components of an enterprise budget? Well, basically is the gross revenue, your costs, and your profit estimates. What is the purpose of the enterprise budget? Basically, we have that the first one is going to be the financial planning. This one is a tool for estimating cost and return that specific cost. For example, in this webinar, we want to work with spinach, and we also have the measurement of labor, equipment, and other operational costs needed. Other purpose of the enterprise budget is because it helps on decision making. It helps to take better decision makings about practices and cost return measurements, and also assess risk exposure within enterprises. I would like to stop here because I forgot that we have a pre-survey poll, so I will post it here very quickly. Are you seeing the survey?
Not yet.
Okay, let me launch it. Let me launch it.
There we go.
I only see the responses.
Are you seeing now the survey?
Maybe because I already tried it out.
Yeah, I think you try, right?
Yeah, so it's okay. Actually, I shouldn't answer it.
Okay. You all get the answers right. I'm gonna end the poll. Okay, so continue with this. We also have that we have another purpose on the enterprise budget is to perform the measurement of the efficient resources uses. Whenever we are producing leafy greens like spinach, we're using a lot of inputs. Please stay tuned because I'm going to share an enterprise budget that we have worked in central Indiana with a peri-urban farmer. And then we had found that farmers to produce spinach use a lot of inputs as a variable, fixed and overhead expenses. So one of the goal or one of the purpose of the enterprise budget is to find the right or the correct efficient resource use in order to maximize profitability. And also is to identify areas to cut costs and or improve efficiency. And the last one is to assist assessment of break-even price and yield. With the information that we got in the enterprise budget, we can have a break-even point in price in order to have a decision and say, for example, oh, this is the minimum price that I need to charge in order to cover my costs, and the same for yield. So if we have the information in an enterprise budget, we can have the minimum break-even point in yield in order to cover costs. So basically, what are the enterprise budget components? It's we could build an enterprise budget with very brief farm information. One of the most important part here is revenue, and I heard that, for example, Susan used direct to consumer channels. Other farmers could use wholesale, for example, or other channels like internet. Farmers market, and other direct-to-consumer channels. So it's important to quantify where is the channel that you are selling your products because it might have different prices. Other important components of the enterprise budget is the variable cost. I have been researching a lot of costs in variable costs. For example, seeds, pesticides, biopesticides. Also, we tried biological control. In labor is one of the key points in labor because most of the growers that we have going to collect data, they do not use much pesticides, so they use or pesticides or herbicides, for example. They use more labor in order to being more organic, and also fixed cost is another cost. This one is very important because I would say that it's very difficult to quantify because let's say that, for example, if we have I heard that Susan has a caterpillar tunnel. So let's say that in the same caterpillar tunnel, she has 5 or 6 rows. And how can we quantify the fixed cost of the depreciation cost of the caterpillar, for example? And we, with Dr. Torres, we have been working in how to make the exact cost of the depreciation cost in fixed cost to get a very friendly cost, I would say, to put in an enterprise budget, and also to be more realistic, because it's very like, I would say, like, difficult to do that. And also, last but not least, and it's the same of fixed cost, is the overhead expenses. So we have a lot of overhead expenses in some farms, like for example, marketing or electricity or water or taxes. So how can we uh, put exact overhead expenses within this enterprise budget? And then I will share, and I will, as I told you, I will say, I will share a file, an Excel file with some examples of a case study. Because at the end, the goal of the enterprise budget is to show the farmer what is the net profit estimate for their business. And then I will share right now a case study to quantify a little bit more, or what we have been doing on as a case study with a farmer in central Indiana. This is basically an 8 acres farm. It's located in central Indiana. This farmer has a little bit close to 16,000 square feet of high tunnels. So we start with spinach, and then just spinach. They had in that in one cycle of production 860 square feet, and in that area, they harvested a yield of 310 pounds. And if you're seeing here, sorry, it's a little bit more than 1 month and a half. So they use that period of time. The gross revenue of the farm, it's a little bit close to $100,000. And they pay different wages among type of employees. For example, the full-time, they pay $19.50. Their part-time, they pay $17.50. And the machine operators, they pay $19.50. In the channels, they are selling right now through CSA and farmers market and retailers. So their gross sales, it's around $4,200. So we have right now so far the gross revenue, and then we are going to introduce right now in variable costs. So the variable cost for this operation, for these spinach operations on their high tunnels, it's they use one bag of 10,000 seeds, which is like $18. They use also compost for fertilization, and they use other fertilizer. I think it's manure. So at the end, the total variable cost for one cycle of spinach production on their high tunnel is gonna be like close to $300. When using in labor, so they basically, yes, Ariana.
I think I want to note that there are the enterprise budget is going to ask a lot of the farm general area. So for example, you are asking what is the total gross revenue, what is the total area, but then we focus on a spinach. And the reason for that is that Jean-Pierre has developed different weights. So for example, if a spinach is used in your caterpillar tunnel with 10 other crops, you can charge rent of land to spinach only. You have to spread it through all the crops and through all the area. So that's why you see a lot of questions about, you have 8 acres, but the high tunnel is only 15,000 square feet. Of them, spinach is only 860. And that proration is giving us an idea, okay, how much of the fixed assets or equipment or the caterpillar itself or the Hightown in this case are going to be charged to production of a spinach. And that's why you see we're also asking the gross revenue of the entire farm. And then we calculate the revenue only of the spinach, because this idea is going to tell us this is the farm and these are all the things that they do, but there are assets or equipment that are only used for a spinach, but and also other crops, so you can't charge a farm with all of it because other crops are also using it. So it's like charging rent for spinach or for any crop based on the things that they use, on the area they use, and the impact on revenue. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Ariana, thank you so much. And that's very right. And we are using this information because we have some assumptions based on area and on revenue. And then we have also collected information of labor usage. So we know that, for example, for bed prep, they use actually in labor days, they use only full-time employees, and they use 10 hours for bed prep, for 1.5 for fertilizer, and 1 hour for monitoring insects, and 1.5 for irrigation setup. Same for harvest, they use 10 hours, 1 hour for weeding, and 0.2 for irrigating. And then in post-harvest labor usage, they use 8 hours for washing and 5 hours for packing. And this is because they are selling through farmers market and other direct-to-consumer channels. So the spinach has to be, and they sell by pound. So the spinach has to be like in a very good shape. So at the end, we have if we multiply the full-time employer wage, which is 19.5, with the hours that they use through every season, pre-planting, growing season, and post-harvest, we're gonna have a total labor cost of around $745. Then we are going to go for how many tools you have to use in order to produce spinach. I have to be honest in this part. When I started with the project, I did not realize that for produce any other, not only spinach, but any other vegetable crops, farmers use a lot of tools. And at some point, I grew up in a family farm, so we did not quantify the depreciation of the tool, of depreciation of the equipment, or depreciation of the buildings. So we only quantify for example, the variable cost. So it was a very good understanding to know how can we quantify, for example, the high tunnel cost for just one cycle of spinach. As Ariana said, for example, if we have a high tunnel of 10 rows, and then we only have one row of spinach, so how can we quantify a very realistic cost in that way? So we went to the literature, and we went also with we went basically to literature, and then we quantify that by area, and also by time. That's why we are asking when you plant and when you harvest, to have a time, and also we're asking what's the area of your just spinach and what's the area of your tunnel, so we can have a percentage of land use. Similar for icing or cooling system, we need to quantify that, and this farm has. I understand that there are farmers that they sell the spinach basically when they harvest. They go into a farmer's market, for example. We did the same for irrigation systems. They had fertilizer sprayers, they had flame weeder, hose, rake, and other equipment or tools. So at the end, the fixed cost was $163. And last but not least, we have the overhead expenses. So the overhead expenses here, so are most of them, or the majority of them, are based on land use and also are based on time. But the ones with taxes, for example, this one with taxes, they are basically on revenue, because it makes more sense to quantify how much percentage of your overhead expenses of payroll taxes is based on revenue that in land use, for example. So at the end, we have the total overhead expenses is gonna be $1,350. And this is gonna be how our net profit analysis will look like. This farm has, as I mentioned before, this is like kind of the gross revenue is a little bit more than $4,000. The total cost is $2,500, and the projected net profit is $1,600. And we also did this analysis because this is a part of a tool that we are developing at Purdue. The name is HortCalculator. And then we did also the analysis by square foot, because if we want to compare, for example, if we are producing lettuce, and then if we want to compare which one is more profitable, it's very difficult to compare among the total revenue, or the total gross revenue, or the total net profit. But if we are comparing by square foot, it's gonna be like more realistic scenario, because we are comparing by land use. And then this is gonna be the case study, and show you. And then we have some conclusions. As I mentioned before, it's very important in order to build an enterprise budget, have data. In my own experience, I've been working with several farmers in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois, and most of them are using like applications in the cell phone, which is very interesting right now. Other ones are using Excel files, and other ones are using in the computer. They have their own program. But the most important thing is to have the data in order to build this enterprise budget of this tool to have better decisions. And the key factor of the enterprise budgets are the sales. We need to know, or we have to know what are our channels, how much we are charging by bulk, by pounds, by kilograms. We need to know the cost, and also we need to understand what is our projected net profit telling us in order to take better decisions for our business. And with that, I would like to have the floor open for questions, and I will be more than happy if we can have some questions right now to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Very nice presentation. So Brian asked a question on the chat, and he's asking where can he get the spreadsheet? And I think one thing that we probably want to share is that the spreadsheet that you saw, we are more than happy to work with you and share the spreadsheet. Jean-Pierre has been working with farmers to tailor this spreadsheet to specific farmers' operations, because we know that every farmer is different. And that's what we use in this Excel file, tailored to different farmers, to build a website that is going to be accessible to anyone for free. So you're going to be able to answer questions related to how much did you harvest, how much, what was the price for different channels, what was the labor usage, how much you pay labor, what was expenses on fertilizer, pesticides, what equipment and machinery you use, or tools, etc. So what you saw on the Excel file is going to be a user-friendly website. And that's the goal of the project. Is at the end, we're going to, throughout this series of webinars, we're going to build how we come up with this website. But if you want the Excel sheet, we're more than happy to share it with you. And of course, we're more than happy to also work with you to understand what is the data that you have. And one of the things that Jean-Pierre mentioned at the end is you need to have some information, right? Like the more information you know, the more accurate the results are going to be, or the more accurate your financial reports are going to be. Because if you have how much like hours you use for bed preparation, and you can have estimates, and you should start with estimates if you don't have it, and then over time build that knowledge or build that data, so you're going to be able to plug the data into the website, and then you're going to get all the financial reports that Jean-Pierre was showing, which are usually not available in enterprise budgets. So we're combining enterprise budgets that are usually PDFs, we're making them dynamic into a spreadsheet, and then we're creating, using that information from the spreadsheet and the enterprise budget to create financial reports that are going to allow you to compare. Let's say I want to buy a high tunnel. Is it going to be worth it? I want to start using biological control, which is Jean-Pierre's project. What is the impact on the prices that I need to charge my buyers? If you want to grow spinach versus lettuce, or Susan was sharing that she grows different types of salad mixes or salad greens. So if you want to grow more kale or red kale versus arugula, you can compare what is the profitability of each depending on the prices and the resources that you use. One thing that about comparing leafy green to leafy green, let's say arugula and red kale, it's that you're going to use potentially the same amount of fertilizer and pesticides. So what you're going to compare is the sales price or the revenue. And you're seeing, okay, which one is going to give me a better sales price if I change everything or 50% to this specific crop. And that's ultimately the goal that we have, is building these PDFs to a spreadsheet to a website that anybody can use, access, and create their results and the financial reports that they want. And we're going to walk you through all these, the next 10 webinars. How do we get there? But we need to start, like Jean-Pierre was saying, with the data. And sometimes we need to estimate it or guesstimate it, and sometimes we have it. And I think ideally we have all the data, but it is not really realistic to have to the minute how many hours you spent on this or how many cents you spent on that. But I think it's a good idea to understand, roughly speaking, how much I spent on each of my variable inputs, etc. But
And also,
I'm going to put my email address here, and you're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we will guide you towards this. Jean-Pierre, did you have anything?
yeah, I just have a brief thought about that. The thing that you have said, it's this enterprise budget was built with one farmers, but in order to build our tool to get the enterprise budget, we have to go to several farmers to get more information, because it's like a Q&A TurboTax website. So the more information we have, the better for us. Because I just want to mention a short example. I remember that I went to there was a farm close to Indianapolis, and the other farm was, I would say, that 20 minutes driving, so it was pretty close in the same area. And we were collecting spinach data, and I went to the two of those farms, and they use different tools, and they have different overhead expenses. So, and then I realized that the more data we have, the more realistic questions we will have in order for be more friendly for farmers or for user of the website.
Yeah, and every farm is different, and you all know that. Like if you go to your neighbor and they're also growing their same crops, the way they're gonna grow and the inputs they're gonna use or the equipment they're gonna use is going to be very different. So Jean-Pierre, Brian shared his email address, and I don't know if you wanna on the chat, if you wanna take a note of this so we can reach out to
Yes.
them. Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I will reach out Ryan, and if he wants to work with us, we will be more than happy to receive his data in order to keep building or keep feeding the website. But I will send him an email.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Go
I
ahead, Brian.
work with different veterans and farmers throughout Indiana. I'm up here in South Bend. We got a conference down there in Bloomington. I'm all over the place talking to farmers, homesteaders, big ranchers, things like that. So if you have any specific projects that you can't find or you're looking for, yeah, please send me an email saying, hey, keep an eye out for this. And then I can say, okay, here, I know some of these other things like you talked to, spinach, carrots, things like that you're probably already doing, but if there's any niche ones that you have trouble finding, I may come across them. That's all. Thank you. This is
Thank
awesome.
you, Ryan.
Thank you, Brian. Actually, it's really helpful. One of the biggest challenges that we run is trying to find farmers who are willing to work with us. So your information and your email, yes, your email address is great because farmers are really busy and we get it. And we're there bothering and trying to visit them. And sometimes, usually things are when you're busy, then we can't go on the weekends. So having you as a contact, and if you have any farmer who wants any kind of financial assessment, you can reach out to me as well, because the more information we gather, the better a tool that it will be tailored for more farmers. Right now we started with spinach for this project, but the goal is to extend the website to more crops. So actually, my dream, if you may, is to have a tool that any farmer with any kind of crops can go in and plug their data, and it'll tell you what to expect. If you invest on something, let's say you want to buy a high tunnel or a greenhouse, or you want to buy, I'm working with a researcher that is trying to understand if you do full integration of livestock and plants. So she's trying to understand if you use, I think, goats and chicken, and have a full circle of integrated, whatever manure comes from goes into the crop and feeding. So that'll be really nice to understand, okay, are there opportunities for farmers in terms of new technologies that are going to be profitable? Because you don't want to invest your money and time on things that are not going to be profitable. So any way that we can answer that question, we'd be more than happy. So thank you very much. I'll also keep your contact information, and more than happy to work with any farmer as well. Susan, do you have any question? I'm putting you on the spot. I know
Yeah,
you unmuted yourself.
yeah, actually I do. So I'm wondering how you take into account unsold produce. So say like I produce 1 week, we'll say just by week, like 1 week I produce 30 pounds of spinach, but I'm only selling 20 pounds of that spinach. So then the other 10 pounds is not making any income. How does that fit into the enterprise budget?
Are you donating that 10 pounds, or are you using for your own?
Um, Realistically, we'll usually like maybe save half a pound for us and the rest of it goes to donation.
Okay, yeah. With this enterprise budget, actually they have some donations, and then in order to have a more realistic revenue, we quantify that as with a average price. Because it's something that you had that if you have an option, you could sell. And if you could sell, you need to put it within your enterprise budget. So we basically did that.
I think there are different ways to add to what Jean-Pierre also said is, so let's say if you have different markets, the revenue is going to be the direct result of what you sell. So the quantity sold times the price that you received. Maybe you sell to different markets. When it's a donation, though, the price is going to be zero. So I think it's interesting because if you're donating it, you're building goodwill in the community and there's value to that. Probably not monetary value that we can accommodate to understand what's the impact on your profitability. But I think donations, and I have another project that is working with churches and grassroots organizations. And a lot of what they do is they gather donations from farmers to give to food insecure individuals. There is no monetary, unless there is a monetary revenue that is in dollars or any currency. that amount is not going to be impacting your profitability, but I think there's a lot of value in donating to the community and building the reputation and your community engagement that is going to, in the longer term, pay off. Because if you're donating to the community, you're building that community connections, and a community that is healthy and it's consuming a healthy foods is going to be a community that is going to be more resilient. So there are different ways to look at it, but in the monetary terms, there's no calculation if there's no sales or no income received from a sale.
So practically speaking, then I would only count the food that was sold, the poundage sold in the enterprise budget, not anything unsold. And it wouldn't reduce my price per pound. I wouldn't average it out. It would just be, it just wouldn't count for anything.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the price is zero. So that brings a quantity. However, I think what is interesting is what Jean-Pierre was saying is, what if you sell that, right? What if you sell that to another, I don't know, maybe 50% off, or you sell it to a restaurant, or you sell it to, I don't know, another farmer that may be needing that. You can calculate that with the enterprise budget because you are going to average those prices. But if you didn't receive any money, you are paying expenses for what was produced, but that portion that wasn't sold is not generating any monetary revenue.
The interesting thing is, like with fresh produce, like you have a certain period of time in which to sell it before the quality decreases.
Yeah.
And then also the amount of money that you actually have to put into it. If you have to start seeking out other channels, like that's time and that's mileage and that's everything else. So then actually your profit also goes down. There's probably some cases where it's better just to either compost or donate it, which is a simple, quick thing to do, than to look for other channels, which would get you a lesser price.
Yeah, I sometimes, like you said, sometimes even going to an extra market to sell what you didn't sell in one market. We actually ask in the enterprise budget, what was the labor usage for marketing? Because the mileage that you're going to drive, the car usage, those are expenses that you have to incur that is going to increase your production costs. And what you want to lower that as much as you can and increase your revenue as much as you can. So your profit gets bigger. Sometimes doing nothing is cheaper than trying too much.
Yeah, especially when you're paying an employee to sit at a market for 8 hours. That's a huge expense.
It is a huge expense, and sometimes, if not, it's you, right? And that means that you didn't attend the crops that you have to, or you didn't apply a fertilizer or irrigate your crops. Farmers markets can be very profitable, but sometimes, depending on the number of farmers markets that you attend, may not be the best solution to attend all of them. And that's why farmers are trying to. I think when farmers markets started in the late 90s, a lot of farmers were like, all the farmers markets attending, and let me sign up for this and that. And then you find that over time they start tuning in which ones are the most profitable, where are the customers that are going to buy the most, instead of going to the farmers markets, because they take a lot of time. They build great connections, and you may get great sales, and you may get a lot of potential buyers like restaurants, but attending all the farmers markets can be very very expensive in itself. So if you found yours, that's amazing. Brian.
Sorry, I couldn't find the hand raise button. And I know this is all data analysis driven for the overall picture to, capture that. I don't know if there's a way to integrate maybe like a notes or comments saying, okay, there's all this excess. I sold bulk to my neighbor who needed feed for their cattle, as far as excess produce, things like that. I know it's an extra step. I'm not asking for it to be done because I know it's all data analysis numbers driven, but I don't know if there's room to even add that portion in there. So if it's user friendly, they can capture that, because there's value in that. There may not be a monetary number attached to it, but that value is, making connections with your local fellow farmers and growers, but then also growing as far as, trading that, truckload of extra carrots for a cow.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a
I don't
great
know if
point.
there's room to add that in there or notes or some small thing to do, but just an idea.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can do that. Absolutely. We can add a question that says, Jean-Pierre, on the website, if you have excess or if you have yield that was not sold, please detail. So when they receive the report, so the farmer is going to answer, or the user is going to answer the questions. And at the end, they're going to get the report of the profit, break even, return investment, etc. But they can also get that text that they entered to remind themselves, hey, I actually donated 10 pounds, or I gave to, and 50% went to my cows, or 30% was given to my neighbor because yada yada. And I think for the sake of keeping records over time and comparing profitability, it is a very important factor that again builds community engagement and long term can be very beneficial for a farmer.
Yeah,
Could you,
this is sorry. Go for it, Susan.
I was just going to say, could you call that like actual versus potential? So you'd have your actual yields that was sold and then your potential, what you harvested but did not sell, like potential sales, actual sales versus potential sales.
Yeah, or what we can do is we can ask, how much did you harvest and how much did you sell? And whatever, if there's a gap, we can ask a question. Hey, we noticed that 10 pounds were not sold. Can you tell us what happened? It may be going to food losses, so crop losses, maybe donations, or maybe compost, or maybe personal consumption. There's a lot of farmers, like you were saying, maybe half of the pound you keep for yourself or for your family. But some farmers say, okay, I'm going to give it to my grandparents or my kids. And I think that harvesting, even though it has an expense and may not have a monetary revenue attached to it, it has a lot of value for a farmer because it not everything is about making money. We want to be profitable and cover the cost, but there's a lot of goodwill in the farming community that needs to be captured and needs to be tracked. So, Jean-Pierre, do you mind making that note when we talk to the developers?
Yes. Yeah, I have the note, and also I would like to post a a poll. It's gonna be very quick, so please.
So we're asking two questions at the beginning and the same two questions at the end. And this is a way to report to the funding agency, which is the North Central Extension Risk Management Education. It's a big name. To tell them how can we do things better, and also for ourselves, like, well, how can we improve what we're doing, because we have 10 more webinars. So please, I'm going to share the link of the website where we have the webinars and all the project. And then if you can share it with anyone that may be interested, we'd be more than happy to get people to come to us and ask questions and give us ideas, because ultimately what we want to provide is a tool that people are going to use and make use of it and make decisions. So there's a whole, if you go to that website, that's my project. And then if you go to HortCalculator, that is the webinars and all the calendars and the people that are involved in this project. Thank you very much for attending. We are recording this, and this recording is going to be available on that website that I just shared. I'm going to send you the specific link here. And any feedback, we would love to get any feedback so we can do better. What we want is to have something that is going to be useful for growers, and add more crops, add more scenarios, add more farmers. And these are the two, we have to say, these are the two funding agencies, USDA, it's a NIFA, and based on the Specialty Crop Research Initiative, and then the North Central region, the Extension Research Risk Management and Education. So we got some funding to hire and developers and students who work on this. And we want to thank you for attending, and please share these webinars with anyone that may want to attend future webinars or watch the recordings. Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For presenting.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope to see you all in the next webinar. Please stay tuned. The next webinar is gonna be about how to interpret key financial performance indicators for leafy green production. So I think it's gonna be very interesting, and then I will be more than happy if I can see you all in the webinar number 3. And thank you so much for being here, and please stay tuned for the next webinars. Thank you.